Hello, library friends. It's Miss Mary again, and it is time for another story. This story that we have today is very old. It is from a collection of stories called Aesop's Fables. And if you have never heard of Aesop, you have probably heard of at least one of these stories. There are many collections. You can find them in the library. You can find them on our digital tools. You can find them on Project Gutenberg. And they are a lot of fun. And they all have a lesson at the end. So this story is one you may have heard before. It is called The Town Mouse and the Country Mouse. Once upon a time, a country mouse who had a friend in town invited him, for the sake of old times, to pay him a visit in the country. The invitation being accepted in due course, the country mouse, though plain and rough in his habits of living, opened his heart in honor of an old friend. There was not a carefully stored-up morsel that he did not bring forth out of his larder, peas and barley, cheese parings and nuts, hoping by quantity to make up for what he feared was wanting in quality. The town mouse, who was used to more dainty fare, at first picked a bit here and a bit there, while the host sat nibbling a blade of barley straw. At length he exclaimed, "How is it, my good friend, that you can endure the dullness of this life? You are living like a toad in a hole. You can't really prefer these lonely rocks and woods to streets filled with shops and carriages and men. Believe me, you are wasting your time here. We must make the most of life while it lasts. A mouse, you know, does not live forever. So come with me, and I'll show you life in the town." These fine words were too much for the simple country mouse, and he agreed to go with his friend to town. It was late in the evening when the two crept into the city, and midnight ere they reached the great house where the town mouse lived. Here were couches of crimson velvet, carvings in ivory, everything, in short, that told of wealth and ease. On the table were the remains of a splendid meal, and it was now the turn of the town mouse to play the host. He ran to and fro to supply his friend's wants, pressed dish upon dish and dainty upon dainty, and, as though he were waiting on a king, tasted every course before placing it before his rustic cousin. The country mouse, for his part, tried to appear quite at home, and blessed the good fortune that had brought such a change in his way of life. When, in the midst of his enjoyment, as he was wondering how he could have been content with the poor fare he was used to at home, on a sudden, the door opened, and a party of ladies and gentlemen, returning from the theater, entered the room. The two friends jumped from the table in the greatest fright, and hid themselves in the first corner they could reach. When the room was quiet again, they ventured to creep out, but the barking of dogs drove them back in still greater terror than before. At length, when all the household was asleep, the country mouse stole out from his hiding place, and bidding his host good-bye, he whispered in his ear, "My good friend, this fine mode of living may do for those who like it. But give me barley bread in peace and security before the daintiest feast where fear and care lie in wait." The lesson from this story is, a humble life with peace and quiet is better than a splendid one with danger and risk. What do you think? Do you agree? Would you like a humble life with peace and quiet, or would you like a life with danger and risk? Do you think you have to choose between one or the other? Could you maybe have a little of both? That's something to think about. So I hope you enjoyed our story and that you have a wonderful evening. Take care.